And with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com. Today we're going to talk about 3 pieces of terminology. Granted, these might be terminologies that I use and other people don't use, but this is how I describe things. To me, there's 3 different bunches of aligner systems. There's Invisalign. Invisalign's the OG. Came around in 1998? I was one of the first dental students that got exposed to Invisalign back in 1998 when Align Technology came to UCSF and did a pitch for their pitch deck. And I was like, this is so cool. I want to be an orthodontist. Invisalign made me want to become an orthodontist. Anyways, it is the OG, the first aligner system. Everything else to me is an alternative aligner system. Nothing wrong with that for the average case, as long as you pick the right case for an alternative aligner system. Remember, because Invisalign is so much ahead of the other aligner companies and they're really ahead in R&D, there's a reason why you're paying a crazy lab fee. It's because of their R&D and their marketing and their brand awareness. A lot of the money that you're paying is going to R&D and marketing. So they have certain features that the alternative aligners do not have or cannot have because they're gonna get sued. So if you're looking to grow a lower jaw, if you're looking to clip an expander onto an aligner, well, can't use this, gotta use Invisalign. And a couple other things Invisalign does. They're always coming out with something new, pretty cool stuff. Predictable, but expensive, and you have to pay upfront this big lab fee. Okay, let's talk about alternative aligners. There are literally hundreds of brands out there. Some are made in the US, some aren't. Some are only available in some countries, some aren't. Ever since the first round of Invisalign patents expired almost a decade ago, alternative aligners have been popping up all over the place like weeds. Some are good, some aren't. I'm not gonna call out the bad ones because I've learned when I call out the bad ones, I get myself sued. No, thank you. Not doing that again. The main thing for you is to realize you need to pick the right case for the right aligner system. Take a look at my videos that I have. If you want to look within my YouTube channel, look by keyword. Look at the word red, the word green, and the word yellow. That'll bring up my case selection videos. Make sure you look at the most recent ones. I have some old ones in there that are probably hanging out. The most recent ones were published a month or so ago, maybe last week. And I talk about case selection for alternative aligner brands. As long as you're picking the right kind of case, it's totally fine to use an alternative aligner brand. What makes an alternative aligner brand predictable? Well, to me, first of all, you need to have a quote-unquote Clin Check or aligner setup that looks predictable. Now, you're going to probably have to ask an orthodontist about that because we are pretty good at that. And you can't trust the technicians or the people that work for those companies because they're getting paid to tell you things. And by the way, I don't get paid a cent for publishing anything or anything like this. So what I'm telling you is just because I'm telling you because it's my opinion. I have nothing to benefit from this. We need to have a predictable setup is the first thing. Remember, you drive the bus on the setup. You need to know how to make it predictable. You cannot trust the technicians to make it predictable. That means you need to train on it. That means your first 30, 40, 50, 100 cases, you really should probably do them with an orthodontist and not an orthodontist that works or gets paid for by that aligner brand. Super important. So if you are paying an orthodontist that is getting paid by a class by that aligner brand, not predictable. I can tell you because I see this stuff all the time. They have an underlying motive to do things a certain way. I have no underlying motive to do things a certain way. Okay, so anyways, predictable setup is the number one thing. Secondarily, you have to have an accountability loop. Accountability loop means that either you're using a virtual accountability loop, either one that's inherent or baked into the aligner company or one that's a third party, or you can create your own. I really don't care as long as you make it HIPAA compliant, and you need to be checking in with your patient every single aligner, either in person or virtually. Now, some people do it every few aligners, which is okay once they get the hang of it, but I recommend still having that virtual accountability loop for every aligner. If you do this, you have a predictable plan and a good manufacturer. There's a few that aren't great. Again, not gonna call them out. You will not have revisions and refinements. It should be very much a one-off. Your rate should be less than 10, 20% like orthodontists. Why do general dentists have a refinement rate of 70, 89% and orthodontists don't? Well, it's because we do all these things. We make a predictable plan, we pick a good manufacturer, we pick the right case for the plan, and we have a virtual or in-person accountability loop. Most orthodontists are using virtual. It works. It's not hard. And I mean, you have to pick a right case for aligners. I can do anything with aligners, but not all cases are going to be as predictable or as fast as braces. Sometimes you need to bundle it with an appliance or braces first. I'm not saying always, but it does often make it more predictable. We call this hybrid treatment. Lastly, we have white label aligners. Again, this is my term. Other people might not call it. That just means they're coming unbranded from a manufacturing system. That means you're going to pay separately for someone to do the setup. Price point is somewhere between 90-ish and 200-ish for one of these third-party companies to do a setup, who is then going to outsource it to a lab in your country, who is then going to manufacture it, bag it. It's probably going to come in Ziplocs or very simple bags. It's not going to say Invisalign or ClearCorrect or anything like that. Or sometimes a white label, you can put your own branding on it, but you need to check the legalities, because that's not always legal to do that. Often you have to have all kinds of FDA approval for that, and that's going to cost money, so I'd be careful with that. I'm happy to refer you to people who can help you with that if you want to do that. It's going to be unfancy is basically what it comes down, generic aligners, but they work just as well, assuming you pick, again, the right company to design it and the right company to manufacture it, and you have an accountability loop. Now, for the most part, white label aligners are going to involve you paying per aligner, okay? So you can do something called batch printing. So check out my content I have on white label aligners, on batch printing, and if you'd like a referral to Invisalign, just go find it yourself. I can't really refer you, they're too big. Alternative aligners, I have a few brands that I like where I know people, happy to refer you. If not, find your own. And white label aligners, I would say for the most part, there's one brand that I work with most of the time. This is what we do in our office. It's very predictable. I've been using them for 6 years. Again, you got to have that accountability loop. Otherwise, you're going to be paying a lot, and there's no reason to pay a lot because the price point is somewhere between $18, $20, $22, $25 for a white label aligner per aligner, not per set, per aligner. So if you have 10 uppers and lowers, that's 20 aligners. You can batch print and just print the first 3 uppers and lowers first. That's $6. Say by times $20, you can do the math. That's $120 plus a $90 setup fee. That's $210 lab fee. Whereas here you're paying a $2,000 lab fee. $2,000, $210. Which one you like better? I like $210. But then when you realize it's tracking with the accountability loop, you can contact them and say, hey, can you print the next 6 or next 3? And that will keep your lab fees low so that you're not front loading the lab fees, so that you're not going negative with the lab fees. You know, you're not underwater with your lab fees at the beginning of treatment. You have more cash flow. That is the benefit of the white label aligner over alternative aligners and Invisalign. But it's personal preference. If you want a certain amount of revisions and refinements baked in and you don't want to pay per, then you should use this or this. Hopefully that was helpful. Thanks.